Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Friday, everybody. Friday, September 6th, and boy, have we got a special show for all of you tonight. Yes, we've got the stars of Transmedium, Puerto Rico's UFOs in here tonight. We'll be having DARCY WEIR and Andy Marcial coming in. But before we get things started, I want to go ahead and welcome in our audience. Who in the heck do we have out there? I want to welcome in all of our friends from Disclosure Tonight, because the chat community is where it's at. Remember, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this broadcast on YouTube. On that note, let me go ahead and get the drums up and going and welcome everybody in. Here we go. All right, who do we have out there? Let's take a look. We have April R. Coleman. Welcome. Brian Morgan. Alexander showed up. Carl Joel Garrison's here along with couple Abe 3. Eli McGinnis is in the house along with Firefly, Frankenstein, Idaho Strong. Jay Cat's here along with Kathy. Kelly Burrow and those piercing blue eyes. Seeing you, Kelly. Thank you for coming here tonight. King Bull's here along with Metal Gaming. Peggy and Steve and South Florida friends. Tongue twister today. Welcome, my dear lady and family. Reality Check VIPs are on along with Robert Vargas, Shelley Montgomery, Super Unknown, Victoria Nance, and Wildcat Mahone. How about that? We've got a great show for everybody tonight. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. We've got two wonderful guests here that we're going to be talking about tonight. Transmedium, Puerto Rico's UFOs. Puerto Rico, as we all know, has been a UFO and USO hotspot from Columbus till today. We're going to be joining Darcy and Andy as we explore a newly leaked UAP video from a DHS agent uncovering the truth and meeting and talking about new witnesses and alien encounters, analyzing credible footage from Homeland Security and stunning photos from witnesses in the movie that Darcy has, starred in today, and Andy have starred in today. This adventure goes into a mystery like never before. Before we get to that, let's get ready for an exciting journey. I want to welcome in our guest here today. Our first person I want to bring in is Darcy. Welcome, Darcy. How you doing today?
Hello, my mic was off. How you doing? Thanks for having me, Thomas, and hello, Thomas Fessler fam, everybody that's on the panel tonight. Nice to meet you all. Laura, Tia, Hollywood Herald, Mike Disclosure, of course, and we got our NY UAP discussion guy, and Nunya Business.
Yeah, we got a great crew here on Usual and Disclosure tonight. A lot of people who are super fans from the audience like to join the back and be part of the conversation. If you don't mind, before we get into this, Darcy, would you mind if I would go ahead and play the trailer for the movie you've got out there?
Go for it. Absolutely. Be my guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and bring this up. Here we go. Let's play this trailer from Vimeo. All right. And also, if you guys are interested in the movie, there's a link where you can go ahead and buy this on Apple TV in the description of the video below. So here, we'll watch this exciting trailer. Here we go.
Darcy Weir is an independent researcher and filmmaker who has traveled around the world to study the UFO phenomenon.
Very under the radar release of some videos and documents with no explanation. All of a sudden, Customs and Border Patrol has released 10 videos from what looks like forward-looking infrared cameras.
Muchos vecinos de las áreas cercanas al lugar.
Andy and I, becoming friends, decided to embark on a journey to find the individual responsible for leaking this video to the public, and our journey into the UFO mysteries of Puerto Rico's history began.
This source 9 said that he would be willing to talk to you about the incident with the Transmedium UFO tonight.
Antes que comience, ¿qué sabe?
And just like that, the footage you see here started being recorded because the CBP FLIR camera operator saw something flying in the airspace over Rafael Hernandez Airport in the middle of the ocean on October 11th at approximately 10 p.m. Columbus stated he and Pedro Gutierrez, while on the deck of the Santa Maria, observed a light glimmering at a great distance. It vanished and reappeared several times during the night. How long has the UFO phenomena been present around Puerto Rico?
They actually changed the procedure for reporting right after, the access procedure, I guess.
Yeah, after that, they changed all the procedures.
This object is reminiscent of an orb that I saw while testing a similar FLIR model out back after repair in December 2016. I couldn't quite determine the size of the object because there was nothing relative to compare it to.
This is supposed to be what you call a nuclear plant, but it never did work, and there's always 24 hours military people there.
Really? Did it melt down?
No.
Wait. Hold on. That's a nuclear? No,
Yeah.
It was going to be, but it never turned out.
It never turned out, no.
But why would there still be?
That's a triangle.
You took that?
Yeah, that's one at 8:30 or 9 in the morning, but the light was strong.
And you took that when you were on a boat?
In a boat.
When we're coming from almost 10 minutes from here, I saw something that crossed from one side of the road to the other, but was so fast that I can't see what it was. When I put the highlights, looked like something, a monkey, something.
Something biological.
Yeah, something cross. When I put.
How about that? Great video. I had a chance to go ahead and watch it. Thanks for sending across that screener for me yesterday, Darcy. It's a great video, and I'm really happy personally to see that someone's finally taking up the torch on trying to bring the truth out on what happened in the Aguadilla, Puerto Rico incident. So if it didn't get out there in the intro, this is probably one of the best UAP videos that we have out there to date. It's one of the longest ones. It goes for about 3 minutes or so, and we see the craft exhibiting properties of invisibility. We're seeing it go transmedium. We're even seeing it going in duplication. And a lot of these different things that are going on. It goes into the water without a splash, comes out at the water line without a splash, like it's got some kind of energy field around it. It's a very, very amazing piece of video. And what brought you to this production and focusing on Aguadilla?
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah. So basically, Andy and I are buddies, and we started the original Transmedium film where I interviewed Tim Gallaudet and Mark D'Antonio and a bunch of other credible witnesses to UAP at sea. That feature, when I was working on that, I met Andy, and I was in New York, and Andy told me, I'm Puerto Rican, and well, he's Puerto Rican. I'm obviously an albino, but he's Puerto Rican, and he was saying how he was basically steeped in knowledge of all this UAP activity that happened in Puerto Rico, not only throughout his life as an experiencer on the island, but also he found that there were cases that weren't fully covered. And he was like, did you hear about the Aguadilla 2013 footage? And I'm like, of course, everybody's kind of seen that. And he ended up saying, there's a guy that's from Puerto Rico that's been covering the UAP phenomenon for decades. His name's Jorge Martin. You got to reach out to this guy. I've spoken to him once or twice, but maybe we can go there and he can, introduce us to people and stuff. And it just kind of happened very naturally, like I wrote an email to Jorge, we ended up exchanging phone numbers, and then he was just like, come, I'll introduce you to the agent. He doesn't want to be featured on camera with his face, but he'll tell you about how this Aguadilla footage got leaked, the background story of how it was captured. And all of the strange phenomenon that's been happening in the ocean, as well as on the beach and over the airport regarding UAP for a little while, and leading up to the capture of this authentic footage. So we did it. We embarked on the journey. We flew out to Puerto Rico, and we interviewed a lot of interesting people, experiencers to the phenomenon. And, you know, I think my favorite story is actually this guy that says he met an alien, a human-looking alien, on the island of Puerto Rico. And, you know, I'll let Andy kind of talk a bit more about that one.
Yeah. Andy?
Yeah, so what's interesting about that one is that the individual that Andres Maldonado, that's the person that he's talking about, the alien or the being or the humanoid figure, whatever it is, it looks similar to us that he spoke to. He claimed his name was Amaron.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is that there's another very famous case in Puerto Rico that I've always talked about, because I always thought it never really got enough attention, is the Amaury Rivera case of 1988, where the individual took, at least in my opinion, are the only authentic photos of military jets near a legitimate saucer. But the interesting thing is that when he was interviewed, he stated that one of the beings that he met after he was kind of, I think he was like freaking out, and then all of a sudden this human-looking individual walked in, which kind of calmed him down. That individual basically introduced himself as with the exact same name that this other person gave us, and there's no affiliation between the two of them.
And it looked like a gentleman who was from Southeast Asia, from India. He had darker skin, kind of wavy hair and everything like that. He didn't look like the other grays that were with him, but humanoid, but definitely from a different continent than Puerto Rico.
Yeah, he the way he claimed it, he said he had a more Indian look to him. But like I said, the interesting thing is that they both had the exact same name of this individual, which is, to me, was pretty interesting. You know, and it's like, how do you? I mean, when you're there listening to his story, the detail he gives, the way he's telling it, the passion behind it, like, you can tell that this individual really went through this experience, and you got no inclination that he was, making any of this up. Like, and I go based off of from my own experience. Like, when I tell the story, I like to listen to myself and someone else's story, and that's how I kind of judge whether or not this experience is legitimate or not. Because when it's real, it really leaves an impression on you. When you tell the story, you really tell it.
You bring up a really good point there, Andy. Is when people who have had experiences come into this and listening to others, we come in it with a bias because of our own personal experiences. And we look for those cues, we look for the things of what people are saying to help get to the point to verify what, validate some of the stuff we've been through, but to also help bring some credibility to what they're going through as well.
Yeah, but it's I guess I look at it like my experience kind of gave me like a step up above, over others that haven't, because it's like you have a better, excuse my language, bullshit meter than most. So you can tend to, hear when a story really is not that believable than when someone is really telling you the truth.
Oh, I think I've got a sound effect for that.
Oh, a bullshit artist.
Exactly.
We run into a lot in this industry, but the thing is, when you run into the genuine people, that's where the magic happens, and that's what I saw in the video in the Transmedium Puerto Rico's UFOs video in the interviews you guys were putting together.
Yeah, it was really. I wasn't expecting to have that kind of interaction with these individuals. Like, I loved it. I thought it was amazing.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. If you look back at the production and the time you were going through it, what part of it stands out is, I guess maybe the part you were just talking about with at the end of the video where he had the one experiencer was brought, where there was a humanoid that brought forward. Was there anything else that stood out from when you were doing your research in Puerto Rico?
Well, yeah, there was. So when we were speaking to the agent, he had mentioned something really interesting. The direction that the craft, that beach in the video that you see the craft going into, has a pretty interesting history.
Right.
So apparently that beach, he stated that fishermen used to use that beach all the time for night fishing and stuff like that, and they stopped. And the reason
we're talking the beach that the UAP goes out over here, we've got it going over the land here. UAPs are on here somewhere, and this is about the point where it's going to start going over the beach and out over the water at this point.
So that area there, we were told by this individual that fishermen stopped going there because they were seeing what they were considering children running at the shore, in the shoreline in the middle of the night. They could see them while they were out in the water, and they'll see the silhouettes running. But the thing is that the location where this beach is at is very, very out of the way. To get to it is not easy terrain, and it's far from the homes and everything. Is very remote.
Well, is this the same beach that lines up right alongside where the airport is? So yeah, there's not going to be a lot of houses in that area.
Yeah, he actually pointed it to us on a map, and you could see that it's very remote. It's far from everything, and it takes a good amount of like if you're walking, you got to walk a decent distance to get to it. So they were seeing these things in the middle of the night, and it got to the point where it ended up freaking them out so much that they just stopped going and using that area for fishing. And apparently they would see them exiting the water and going back into water and never coming back out. So that I thought was very interesting, that's the exact location that object disappeared into.
Interesting to say the least. Puerto Rico has so many things going on. And it was interesting how, Darcy, when you brought it up at the start of the video, you actually, at least in the teaser, you were bringing back the truth about Christopher Columbus, because he was one of the first people who actually called out about things going on in that part of the ocean and the lights they were seeing. And if you want to call it that, some of the first UAP sightings, well, it's not some of the first UAP sightings in modern history, but it's a very interesting one because 1492, that's right around the same time that we had the sightings that happened was in Belgium or Germany, somewhere back in that time, and they had those battles that were happening in the sky. I think that was around 1460, 1480, somewhere around there.
Yeah, the phenomenon's been present on the planet for probably longer than us. And that's just like a paleo experiencer event, so pretty interesting. It was 1561 apparently. Dude, Metal Gaming just gave us that little info. But if you're talking about in Europe, that mass witness sighting. But yeah, like Puerto Rico is a hotbed for UFO sightings, USO encounters as well. I was speaking with Mark D'Antonio in the first documentary, and he mentioned that in 1960, a group of ships were tracking a USO that was going to the east off the coast of Puerto Rico. And every time they got close to this USO, it would evade them and shoot far ahead of them. And they chased it for 4 days, thinking that this was like, maybe Russian or some kind of foreign adversarial technology that was at play here. But it wasn't. It just was something that was playing cat and mouse with them. And, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's so much to unveil in Puerto Rico. Additionally to this footage and all the different experiencers that see stuff there, every year. I mean, like, we met 6 people, and in this documentary we have like 3, but there's more people that want to come out and talk about their experiences. And you know, I'm actually kind of working with a company right now that's interested in developing like a TV series about sightings around Puerto Rico.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's been a really interesting experience, and meeting more people when we're like interviewing for, you know, possible more eyewitness testimony on the island.
Right. Now, geographically, right to the north, I believe, of Puerto Rico is something called as the Puerto Rican Trench, and it's one of the deepest trenches on the planet. And I believe it was at that particular site that Lou Elizondo had talked about in the past, to where they had a test missile that was fired. It came down over the Puerto Rican Trench. They had a helicopter to go and retrieve it. They had a guy they were lowering down from the helicopter to go ahead and secure the missile and bring it back. But as the guy was getting lowered down, they said a USO the size of a small island, a big round one, surfaced and came up below it and then sucked the thing down into the water and then vanished instantly. So there's a lot of things that have been going on in that area for, well, forever. I mean, because it's right kind of off the southeast coast of the United States. But as we know, the East Coast and the Atlantic itself is clearly a hotbed for USOs and UFOs. The biggest thing is, if you look at the oceans, what does it cover? 70-80% of our planet, give or take. We have only explored a couple percentage points of that. But if you're a non-human intelligence, and you want to go ahead and escape from humans and have a safe place that you can get to, a safe place that you can inhabit for a long period of time, clearly going underneath the oceans is a decent place to go. And an additional case in point, when we had the first UAPTF hearing, when they brought out and they were talking specifically, let me get my video back here again. Here we go, Thomas. Oh, here we go. They had gone and brought up the question about USOs, and immediately it was one of the guys from the Pentagon said, no, we can't talk about that. We need to talk about that in classified briefing. Yet anything coming from RO, anything coming from the federal government, nothing to this date has gone to address any of the things that are going on under the oceans.
Yeah, I mean, I think the really striking idea that's been announced, and Lou Elizondo, you know, could be heard saying it on Joe Rogan recently, that we've mapped and we've cataloged more about the surface of the moon than our own oceans. Like, there's just certain factors about our oceans for some reason. I think it has to do with like the pressure at certain depths, the type of craft that you can take down to those depths have to be very small. You know, like the deep one that James Cameron took down, and there's this other explorer, Victor Vescovo, who's good friends with Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet. He's been down to the bottom of these ocean trenches. Like, they're very small submersibles, right? And so you can't really have like an aircraft carrier go down like in Sequest days of science fiction. I don't know if anybody ever watched that Roy Schneider film back in the show back in the day. I used to like it a lot, but yeah, it's like it's right now with our conventional technology, it's like an impossibility to take large amounts of people to the bottom of the ocean and really surveil that in the ways that we've been able to go to space.
Right.
Which is strange, you know?
Yeah, it is. You know, it's part of the planet. Now, there is a new initiative coming out right now. They're working towards right now with a lofty goal of 2030. If I bring this one up, video full guest, there's an initiative called Seabed 2030, where they're aiming to go ahead, and there's a big international effort to go ahead and literally map the ocean's floors in high resolution data, the entire ocean floor, and their goal is to have it by 2030. And this is a multinational effort going forward. The data sets are just coming out right now, and they've got a lot of stuff happening right now. But again, it comes down to just to basically say is, like you were saying, we have all of this space on the ocean floor of which we hardly know anything about. Now, one of the interesting things that came out talking about science about the seafloor about a month and a half ago, they found out that there's actually these structures that are on the bottom of the ocean floor that they're getting ready to mine because it has valuable minerals, but they're finding that these fields of metal deposits that are coming from the core of the planet are actually a generator of oxygen that we breathe on our planet every day. So there's different things about our biosphere, about our life, about life on this planet that we're learning through, and it's just, you know, it's an exciting time for everyone. I know this is your second video on Transmedium craft. Do you have more videos on this that you're spinning up?
I think the plan is to go back to Puerto Rico, get more stories, and just search other interesting cases that have happened in the oceans around the world. It doesn't even have to be an ocean. It could be a Great Lake or something like that. Like, these UAPs seem to be very attracted to bodies of water, you know? And
it's a good hiding place, don't you think?
Good hiding place, great place to possibly extract raw materials. Like you were talking about those black rocks that are generating oxygen.
Right.
Like, if you can go to these depths, it's possible. I mean, you could possibly manufacture things out of sight, out of sound at the bottom of an ocean if you had that kind of technology. Not saying that I know that, but it's, you know, science fiction someday becomes science fact when we catch up with our ability to do certain things.
Absolutely.
You know, with this whole phenomenon, I'm very curious about it, and I'm definitely, I like the ocean. I've been a diver since I was a kid, and I would like to know more about our ocean as much as I could. But yeah, with that study that you were just talking about, I hope they go through with it. I hope it's not just one of these plans, right? How many times have we been told that we're going to be on landing people on the surface of Mars and setting up colonies and stuff? It always gets pushed.
Yeah.
You know, I think that is also a 2030 date. Who knows if it'll happen, but I think by 2020, former Bush Jr. was saying we were supposed to be on Mars at one point, right? But anyways, so...
Isn't he the same guy who said mission accomplished?
Oh, yeah. I think that was his famous speech, right?
That was when he was on the aircraft carrier after initial stuff happened in Iraq, and he said, okay, mission accomplished, but 15 years later.
Yeah. Not a good moment for him. But yeah, I think like there is so much to behold about this phenomenon and the oceans. And I think, again, the Department of Defense and DHS. I mean, DHS just keeps coming up in the conversation, Thomas. We heard about DHS in the Arrow report with Kona Blue as being like this possible Department of Homeland Security-led UAP group, kind of similar to ATIP, but like DHS's version, right? And it didn't happen, but it just shows you that the Department of Homeland Security, with the release of like the 3 prevalent videos that Andy Marcial, who's talking with us tonight, he was responsible for leaking the La Bruja A-10 Warthog footage and
The
Rubber
duck.
Duck,
Yeah.
that originally came from DHS, from an agent who Andy's good friends with. And then you have the Aguadilla footage, which came from a completely different agent who we got to speak with.
But it's still DHS.
But it's still DHS. In a way, it's CBP, Customs Border Patrol, which, you know, everything gets fed up to DHS.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that that's another agency, a security agency, let's say, that is sitting on mountains of data, and we've got 4 great videos out of them. What else do they got? And what else does the DOD got, right?
You know what's interesting about this data, Darcy, is the videos we're seeing from DHS don't involve military sites. They involve our regular territory that's there, and that's the biggest thing that I've been saying is missing from NDAA, from the UAP Disclosure Act, and the conversation is everything is about their incursions in military airspace or sensitive military sites or over military craft. What about the other 99% of our country or the space that's out there that's not military? And that's one area that you're doing a service to the community to try and expose that, because everything else are trying to cover up. But like you're saying, from DHS and the content that Andy got, it's just amazing.
Well, I always found it interesting that, you know, they were interested in doing the whole Kona Blue thing. To me, that, you know, and after seeing the videos that I got and seeing the Aguadilla footage and knowing they all came from the same general source, then they must have other things, or they must be seeing them to that point where they decided they wanted to try to, you know, implement this this program. Why else would the Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, whatever, be interested in doing that? You know, so they must be seeing more, and we just happen to get those the way that we did.
We've got some agents who are a bit more of a leaker than the normal people we'd see from the other parts of the military. And yes, if you're a DHS agent, you know, some people, yes, please share that data, because it's imperative for us as the general public to understand what's going on. No, I see in the back really quick. Hollywood, do you have a question for Darcy?
Yeah, I think he says...
I was going to let him ask it.
Oh, okay. Go for it, Hollywood.
Hollywood, you got a question to ask. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, what were your thoughts on them being like ultra-terrestrials that are way older than us, and they've actually evolved in the ocean separate from us and have their own society and stuff, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm open to it. I'm open to the idea of ultra-terrestrials, crypto-terrestrials, or even future terrestrials. Like Michael P. Masters has hypothesized, and he was actually one of the co-authors of this recent crypto-terrestrial paper that was co-published by a bunch of Harvard professors. And he's over at Montana Technology University or college. And so the idea that they're not aliens is not a bad idea. You know, that the fact that we're here on the surface of the planet, which is unstable, maybe some kind of non-human intelligence has laid claim to the bottom of our oceans to stay away from us. We're pretty much a dangerous primate.
Yeah, but if you also think about the Earth is a bit dangerous in its own, because every so often we have mile-high waves that go crashing over the shores, and we're basically if you look at the story of the Three Little Pigs, we're the little pigs who are building the houses made of sticks, and every so often everything gets washed off. And if you look at upheavals, different parts of geology can happen, but if you are under the water and you're under the bedrock under that water, you have so much pressure and force holding things down. It's probably some of the most stable ground that's on the planet.
I mean, I disagree only because, you know, in university you learn in Geology 101 that we live in a chaos system, just like you said, right? Like we've got hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and actually Andres Maldonado, who we interviewed, he was the experiencer who met this like non-human intelligence, or I guess you would say a crypto-terrestrial or a future terrestrial. That could be a way of looking at this interaction that Andres had. Andreas is a commercial scuba diver, so he scuba dives on behalf of a scientific group across the United States to check the water ecology and stuff like that. He also does some fishing and does some like studies on behalf of his diving. And he was saying that Puerto Rico gets hit by like earthquakes underwater.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd been down like 80 feet and all of a sudden this like seismic shift happens and you feel the body, the volume of water all around you shifting and swaying, and you're shifting and swaying with it. And you hear underwater this eerie, like, you know, vibration, humming. It's very creepy. So he said it's unsettling when an earthquake happens underwater. I can't imagine it's any better at the bottom of the ocean where the crust meets, you know? So I don't know. I mean, the crypto-terrestrial, the ultra-terrestrial theory is great. They would just have to have some kind of establishment that is something like that. But it's interesting, right? It's just interesting that the phenomenon emanates from the ocean quite often. And when you hear thought leaders on this subject, like Hal Puthoff and Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and you name it, like the pilots that are seeing these things, they kind of tiptoe around the extraterrestrial question. Sometimes they kind of, it almost seems like they're trying to push us towards it's something that's not us, that's here with us, right? And I don't know if that's a dimensional thing. It could be this shadow biosphere that we just can't even conceive with our own eyes and our minds.
That which almost leads you to a dimensional state potentially. Where they're here, their space is overlaying with ours, but they're just in a different dimension, a different frequency of vibration per se.
Yeah. The shadow biosphere theory is like really interesting because it's like in science, we talk about dimensions being greater than 3, where we're on that plane in 3 dimensions. We have examples of a 4th dimensional object like a tesseract and stuff, but we can't see that stuff physically. We don't operate in the higher dimensions that theoretically are there. But the shadow biosphere might be things that do operate in that look down on us, so to speak, and can maybe come into our dimension. I don't know. It's all up for discussion, and it's definitely way over my head anyways. I shouldn't be talking about it.
But hey, it's an interesting conversation nonetheless. Laura, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yes, this question is for Darcy or NY. Have you discussed with the divers if there were any restricted areas by government officials or any area in the Puerto Rican or Cuba where they definitely have restrictions? Did you notice that?
I don't recall them mentioning anything in regards to that, but I know in a lot of instances there was military boats or craft that would appear shortly after certain sightings.
I'll say that through speaking with the sort of George Knapp of Latin America, this individual, Jorge Martin, he's a Puerto Rican native. He's been like studying a phenomenon emanating from the oceans and flying around their island for like 4 decades. And Jorge says that the island of Vieques, now I think, Andy, part of Vieques was a very established American naval base, right?
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, that entire section was basically all military.
Yeah.
But you know, on the at least on the side of the island we're at, there's nothing like that.
Yeah. So Vieques has, it's like you have to leave the main island of Puerto Rico. It's part of that greater Antilles region, and it's technically a Puerto Rican like designated area. But the United States had a very prominent naval base there. They say that it's been like shut down, but back in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, like all these decades, it was operating. And Jorge wrote a book about all of these Puerto Rican, basically either Navy, like Puerto Ricans that worked for the Navy there, or were hired as security on the base to watch the perimeter when it was functioning. All of these people that left that base were testifying to Jorge that there was not only a non-human intelligence living off the coast of Vieques that was entering and exiting the lagoon out there, walking on to the beach from the ocean. Like, we're talking real bizarre ideas here if you're visualizing them. But also there was a prevalent case in the book where Jorge states that all of these personnel, multiple witnesses that he interviewed for the book, and he has like these video, old video clips of interviewing them, now that they're old men. They basically said like a massive craft came down, landed on the beach, greeted American Navy personnel, and then like had a meeting on the base. We're talking like Holloman Air Force Base, fabled sort of story, but this is happening in Puerto Rico on this island of Vieques.
Thank you. Do you know the name of the book?
Let me look it up for you. Maybe we'll go to another question and I'll drop that in the messages here.
Thank you.
There is one interesting thing that we learned, was that in the Aguadilla section, I know the Crash Boat Beach used to be a military installation, if I'm not mistaken. And then we heard, correct me if I'm wrong, Darcy, but wasn't there supposedly Navy submarines that were using that area, and they believed that there was some kind of underwater base that the submarines were going into in the section of Aguadilla. And also, Jorge showed us satellite imagery of that section of the coast, and you can see that there's a very large and long rectangular structure sitting on the seafloor off the coast of Aguadilla, and also there's an even larger one that looks very similar, and you could tell that it's not something natural. It looks artificial, and it's also sitting at the bottom of the Puerto Rico Trench, and it's much, much longer, but it's directly sitting at the bottom. It's this perfect rectangular structure.
Okay, I found it, but I might have to share my screen because I don't know how to get this to be any other way. Is that cool? Yeah, all right. Let me just...
Can you present it, Thomas?
What's that?
I was just asking Thomas if there's a way you can use your presentation button at the bottom there.
Here, one sec. Do you see this?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, so As it states here, the cover of his book, it's obviously in Spanish because he published it in his native tongue. Jorge Martin Vieques Pologono del Tercer Tipo. That's my Spanish for you. So maybe, Andy, you can read that a bit better.
It's Vieques Polígono del Tercer Tipo. Nueva edición revisada. That's just basically a title he used for the book.
Cool. And then it says something here. I don't know if you can capture that.
It says El periodista Jorge Martín, the reporter Jorge Martin, revela un aparentemente programa secreto de la Marina de EU de contacto con ovnis y seres humanos en la isla de Vieques. So basically, it's just describing this this scenario, this incident with the Marines and these beings that came down.
Yeah, and it says at the bottom, con documentos oficiales, fotos, ilustraciones y mapas. So official documents, photos, illustrations, and maps. I got to get my hands on that.
Definitely a wealth of information. That's why I had basically told Darcy, I'm like, we got to get in touch with this guy because like I called him the George Knapp of Puerto Rico because this dude is just, he's got so much knowledge. I mean, it literally is that's all he covered was this subject and these instances and scenarios that occurred all over Puerto Rico. Like literally it's a part of the island. That's how commonplace it is.
Yeah. Hollywood, if you have a question, please just raise your hand and ask it versus throwing it up in the chat in the back. Please.
All right. I was just trying not to interrupt or anything.
No, just
Andy,
put your hand up like we usually do, my friend. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Andy, have you been following the recent Long Island investigation with the Nightcrawler crew? And do you have any other information you might link to it since you're from the New York UAP?
That's actually news to me. I'm from here and I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, there's a study that was going on for about.
Is that in regards to?
Yeah, there was a study that was going on for about 10 months when they were going ahead and researching multiple sightings off the ocean, off by the airport in Long Island. It was pretty intense, and there's a full study that they've released on it so far.
The only like real incident that I know about is the 1992 Brookhaven Lab incident. That's related to basically my sighting, because my sighting was literally in the exact same time.
Yeah.
So it's more than likely the craft I saw was either the one involved in the incident or one that was seen after the incident. But that's the most prevalent one that I know.
All right. Well, you might want to be looking into some of these newer things that have been coming out here in the past couple of weeks. Might have some relevance to other things you do.
The thing is that I've seen a lot of the things that people posting lately, and there's a lot of individuals who claim to see things that are not really seeing anything but, planes and stuff like that, or satellite or something. I really have not seen anything very, like, to the point where I'm like, okay, that's different, because I myself have been confused a lot of times with things I've seen out here that turned out to be just very, simple explanations.
That's why I was
difficult.
Together, Andy, was that this looks like a pretty top-notch team they got.
It is, yeah, multi-sensor arrays, and one of the things that was actually very interesting, Andy, and there's sightings when the stuff was going on, they were actually picking up a new signals intelligence coming from ultrasonic waves that were being emitted when the craft were in the area. So it's going beyond EM frequencies, and none of the craft could be seen with their naked eyes or with regular cameras. They could only be picked up with something they could see near infrared.
I'll look into it. I saw something recently on the Good Trouble show that I think that's the people you're talking about. It's two individuals that were showing videos here in, I believe, in New York or
that looked like a boat at sea. That one?
Yeah, right. I saw that. It looked like a boat at sea.
Looks like a boat, like, because they're literally shooting it from the beach.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying. It's like
that looks sketchy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a sighting like in Turkey, where you have like people standing at the beach and they're shooting up at this like triangular shaped craft, and apparently these beings, you know, kind of looking out in the footage. I have spoken with a friend who thinks that's a boat, and I'm like, not from that vantage point, because you're actually in the Turkish footage, they're looking up, right, from the beach. But from that's Nightcrawler people, the Matt Ford thing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm assuming that's that.
It is, yeah. That's the stuff that was just on Matt Ford earlier this week. If I bring up a video for this, go to video full on this one here. This is just one of the clips that they have of having a suite of three different craft going at the same time. Let me get rid of the audio on this.
You can like see, first of all, they should have a tripod, which is like the first. You could see the waves crashing. And just above the horizon line, that light, unfortunately, when you're shooting at a beach like that, an optical illusion that's like very commonly recorded is when something's really far in the distance, it looks like it's actually in the sky, but really it's right on the water, but just really far in the distance.
Right.
So it has that effect of looking like it's, you know, flying, when really it's just sitting on the water.
Yeah. Now these particular craft were I think some of these videos were recorded with a Psionics Aurora Pro. It's just one of the off-the-shelf cameras you can get for $500. And again, the visuals we're getting here, especially this bright light, was only visible coming in from a near-infrared camera. All the other visual cameras did not see anything that's out there. So, and that's one of the patterns they've got, is all the stuff that they're picking up is only visible outside. It can only be seen outside of the spectrum of light that's visible to the human eye.
Well, I know someone who actually, I mean, if they're using that kind of equipment and they can kind of, I guess I don't want to sound, you know, like I'm talking crap, but if they presented it in a manner a little different than the way they did it in the Good Trouble show, it would have been something where I could be like, oh, that's interesting. But the way they presented it, it didn't come off that way. It came off more like Darcy was saying, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, this looks like a boat, you know? But to the normal person who's seeing this, they don't understand what it is that they're using to capture these things.
Yeah.
So if they put that together in a different format or a different way, then that would be a lot more credible, I guess you could say.
Well, clearly this one up in this high in the sky isn't a boat, and a lot of the ones that they're bringing out there, you know, there's some footage that's there. There's some research that they're trying to figure it together, and the part of the matter is, if it's another hotspot, then bring out the cameras. Let's get more people there. Hey, Mike, are you with us right now, or are you still off?
No, I was listening, and I was about to jump in, and Andy made a good point. So did Darcy. I was going to explain, Andy, what you're talking about is those researchers, they're called the Tedesco brothers, and they work with Seoul. One of the brothers worked for the U.S. government in intelligence, and both of them are photography and video experts. They have engineering degrees in building the actual sensors and cameras that they're using, that they also used in government work.
Right.
And the reason why, Darcy, that they're not using a tripod, as you pointed out about the waves, the location that they're working over by is called Jones Beach, which is in Long Island here in New York area. And when they were there, they had 30 to 35 mile-an-hour winds. So he said that if he had it on a tripod, it would have been knocked over. And he had to hold it by hand to adjust for the huge wind that they were combating. And also, these objects were moving at such a rate that if it was on a tripod, he couldn't move it fast enough to keep up with the objects. So that was his explanation. But these two scientists that have very good credentials have been doing this study in that area in Jones Beach for the past several years. And what I thought was interesting is that they got 50 hits of these objects within 10 months.
Yeah.
50 that they documented. Thomas and I went over the footage and the work that they were doing, and we found it interesting, right?
Now,
Thomas?
one of the interesting things you brought up about this, Mike, in our conversations is that beach that they're at. What time does it close?
Oh, 7 p.m. at night, at dusk.
Closes at dusk. So the recordings that they're getting done there, they have to have special permission to actually be on that beach at that late hour to actually even be doing the recordings. So it's not like it's a location that anybody can go out to in the evenings and record. You actually have to have something lined up. Otherwise, the beach patrol is going to kick you out.
A research permit is what they have to be out there. Yeah, we talked about this. No, you're right. The average person is not just walking around at the times that they were finding these objects. And it wasn't, and like you pointed out, Thomas, they have the cameras. They have the mobile rig, the Nightcrawler, that is like a mobile laboratory with all of their specialized photography equipment and sensors. And they were also, and Andy, I think this is the point you first made when you brought this up. They were using LiDAR to try to get a range, mark bearing and range on the objects in the sky.
I found it.
And what they said is that there's obviously some sort of, they have interference going on from the objects.
Now, this is what they're calling the Nightcrawler, right? This vehicle?
That's it. It's a mobile home.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's an
That's like a
RV.
mobile laboratory. Yep.
Wait, looks like a nice home too.
Yeah.
No, it's like a laboratory. They don't live in it. They have a lot of equipment in it.
I mean, some people might try. I wouldn't mind, you know.
Well, I guess if you're out
Maybe
there
for a
researching
weekend.
and you needed a place to shack up for the night and to wake up the next morning and roll out and do it.
Hey, Fessler, man, get the twins in there. Could have a show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, Tim
that's
Senor, when he
interesting.
was doing stuff, going down to the Uinta Basin in Utah, he actually had a full-size RV, even bigger than this one. He was hauling all of his gear around with and had stuff mounted in it, so I understand. Andy, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's like I said, I'm not trying to knock those guys. It's just because, it's just so hard to find people that are doing credible things and that you could actually say, wow, that's interesting. So it's one of the reasons why I really didn't like dive into that too much. But now that you're explaining it in that way, it kind of gives me more of a reason to look into it a little further. But
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, Andy, they're also working with the Soul Foundation. That's why they're doing this research. So they're very credible scientists.
No, that's good to know. I didn't know that. I saw part of the, I didn't see the entire thing, but I saw a good portion of the Good Trouble Show when they were talking.
Yeah, I saw a very small amount too, and I will say, like with the psionics, right? You guys brought that up earlier. Definitely, if you're looking in like the night sky, you're not going to see most things with your eye because your eye just cannot pick up really dim things like satellites and whatever's going through the sky, a really high altitude plane, that type of thing. The psionics will enhance that most of the time. It doesn't necessarily always mean that it's picking up something in a completely different light spectrum. It's just enhancing the already existing.
But when it
light
does
spectrum.
pick it up in something like IR or UV, it actually has a colorization effect that goes on.
Oh, okay. Right. So I've tried a psionics at my buddy Anthony Assemblar's place, and I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, I did notice that we were tracking some satellites, which you couldn't see with your naked eye, but if you aimed the psionics, it highlighted it more, and you're like, whoa, I got a UFO, but really it's just a satellite. Now, I'm not saying that they were recording boats, but it'd be great if they're working with like Soul, if they could like download all 50 videos to say the SCU and get like a group of scientists to pour through that, make sure that they understand like the vantage point that they exactly we're taking that footage from, you know, where the ocean is, where possible boats could be on the horizon, off in the distance, just to rule out anything, rather than it just like, you know, debuting on typical YouTube and stuff and not going through like a proper vetting process before, you know what I mean? Because like I could produce tons of UAP videos I've recorded as well. Over the years, I have recorded lots of stuff in the sky just because I'm a camera guy, right? But I wouldn't say all of it is UAPs. Some of it might be bugs. Some of it might be just terrestrial craft and, you know, prosaic stuff. It just depends on how it was recorded and a group of people to really get critical about that footage around me so I'm not contaminating the evidence with my own opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point, Darcy. I agree. But take into consideration the fact that the Tedesco brothers create sensors and camera equipment for science and for the government. So they are qualified experts with the equipment that they themselves built and developed and are using to focus on these objects. There's another interesting aspect to this story. The area where they are in Long Island is not far from John F. Kennedy International Airport, which means they also noticed that with these objects that they were focusing on, there's a lot of commercial air traffic. And it seems that these objects are in a hotspot wherever there seems to be commercial air traffic, like an international airport here in New York, like JFK. And this is not the first time. Thomas and I were talking about, what was it? Tim had that video over by McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas.
Hey, Tim, if you can, jump in on the call, my friend. I see Tim in the chat right now,
But Thomas, you and I were talking about, it seems that these objects are prevalent wherever there seems to be commercial air traffic around airports.
And even here in the Pacific Northwest, we have it here about 10 miles from where we're at now. One of the imaging experts, David Mason, who was a part of, what do you call it? He was a part of A Terror in the Sky. He actually has chevron-shaped, V-shaped craft following not that far behind commercial airliners. And not only is it a chevron-shaped craft, it's a chevron-shaped craft sometimes, but other times it's moving with an orb in tandem going along after it. And it just seems maybe they're following the traffic of our commercial airliners in a way to keep themselves a little bit more disguised, because there's there's disturbances that are expected from our radars, and they're trying to do this to prevent from being picked up, right, Mike?
Exactly. And the Tedesco brothers, one of the film clips that you and I went over, it had exactly what you described. It had an object that they were focusing on and a second orb-like object trailing behind it. And they were in tandem. And that was one of the videos that they put out on the Matt Ford show that showed specifically that. It seems to be something that occurs around with these objects around airports. And you and I, you told me your theory is that they're trying to camouflage their activity with the commercial air flights. The radar is focusing on the commercial flights and not so much on these objects. And the other thing is, like mentioned earlier, that in the visible spectrum, they're not seeing these objects. They're only picking it up with the IR, and they were using the LiDAR to get the rangefinder on these objects. It was actively being jammed on their equipment from these objects. That's not a commercial flight.
I think they mentioned that it was showing that it was only 40 feet away.
Right. Exactly, Andy. So now if you're in a military jet and you come up upon an object and it's actively jamming you, that's considered to be an act of war with the rules of engagement with our military. And these objects are doing it with civilian scientists, military objects and ships, and they're utilizing active jamming, which supports the theory that Thomas pointed out about they're hiding or trying to hide, and that they're using techniques like this to be able to run and do whatever it is that they're doing unnoticed. and not easily picked up. You have to be specifically searching and looking to find them.
If they could do like what Darcy was saying, to bring these out in that manner with this kind of information to accompany it, that would be great, because it's just so at least the way I see it, it's so hard now to just look at night footage and say, oh yeah, that's a UFO. You know, like I'll give you an example. David Fouch, he has an amazing video because it was taken in the daytime while he was testing. Well, it's actually a buddy of his. He's 20 plus year FLIR technician, and his friend asked him to come look at this object that he was looking at, because as he was switching from visible to infrared, there was nothing there when viewing through visible, but when he would switch it, there was clearly an object sitting in the sky. And you could see in the video, they go back and forth switching, and in visible light spectrum, there was nothing there. As soon as they go back, clear as day, there's an object, there's an orb sitting right in the sky. That, to me, that's an amazing video, because it's during the day and you're seeing visibly that there isn't anything there, and then when it's switched, there's something there. You know what I'm saying? So in that case, I would find that a million times more credible than in a night shot, because there's just so many things at night that it can be confused for. But if you bring it out and you present it in that manner, the way Darcy was saying, then you know, I guess you can solidify that what you're looking at is now backed up with this kind of information to show that it's anomalous, because it's not being able to, you know, it's not.
Oh, no, I understand perfectly what you're saying. It's a good point, Andy. Thomas, do me a favor to make my point to Andy and Darcy about the night footage. Could you pull up Nikki Williams' clip?
Oh, I've got something better. I've got something from daytime I'd like to show them.
Okay, when you do that, though, but also bring up Nikki's clip about the nighttime shot.
I can find Nikki's clip in a second. What I want to go ahead and show you guys here. This is a clip from Malta, in the Mediterranean. I've got an initial clip where we've got a UFO that's hanging in the sky, remaining motionless out over the buildings when it's kind of initially zoomed in. And then we've got another one where at the starting part of this craft, we've got four UFOs that go flying across the screen. And now we've got a UFO that's just about to return. And when it returns, it's actually going to go ahead. It's right here, this little dot here. I know it's kind of hard to see right now. Make it a little bit larger. It's going to come in, and it's going to intercept and drop in its nose within 50 feet of a front of a jet fighter that's going, what do you call it? That's traveling at about
Mach 1 or something like that?
450 to 500 miles per hour. So here comes the craft. Let me turn off that volume there, shut this down a little bit, bring it in. It's going to come down here, and you're going to see a jet fighter. Let me turn off the volume on this. It's going to come down across, and this thing is, and I did basically looked at if this craft that we're going to see is going about 450 miles per hour, and then we're going to see this other thing going at this craft is moving at about 14,000 miles per hour. As you can see, the jet fighter is barely moving going across, and it's going to come in. And let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit so you can see what's going on. I've got a zoomed in version of it and an inverse version of it right there. And there it goes. And that's within 50 to 70 feet of the front of that craft. And it levels off and just goes shooting off the edge of the screen. Now, this was shot by a producer of Love Island back in, I believe, 2021 when they were shooting in Malta. And he was just out there going ahead and recording the air show. He had no idea what he recorded until he got back to the United Kingdom, and he looked at it, and this was one of the things we had. So if you ever want to use this video, I've got the original ones. They have all the timing materials and everything there. This is clearly that shows a craft, not just moving in the sky near a craft. This thing comes down, and it literally buzzes right in front. Come on.
They must love our air shows because they're always there.
There you go.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of footage at air shows. The only thing, just to be devil's advocate here, this is a guy that loves UFO footage.
Oh, yeah.
What is to say that it's not a depth perception problem that we're suffering from here?
Possibly,
and that's not like a bird that's flying more in the foreground of this shot, and it's not even anywhere close.
I'd be happy for you to take a look. I'll send you the package of these videos, because we've got another one where it's zoomed in and one of these craft is literally hanging motionless in the sky. And as the camera moves up and down, the actual craft that's hovering right above the crane remains in the same position. I mean, locked in step, the same distance from the crane as it's going up and down.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to. Yeah, send it to me. I mean, it's a bit hard to see from here, but like
it is. Yeah.
I definitely want to. I always remain skeptical at first until I see more. Of course, like that's the thing. This phenomenon is observed by civilians en masse, and when we know the militaries of the world, they're observing it and capturing it on gun camera footage, or Department of Homeland Security agents are capturing it on CBP planes, in FLIR. That's when I actually take a bit more notice, because I'm like, oh, okay, these people are trained to debunk, they're trained observers. So they're trained to know what they're looking at. Whereas like your Malta guy, I don't know, Love Island, love it. Great. Maybe he's right. Maybe we just need to see a bit more data. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, I'll share it with you. And I'll tell you what, I'll share it with you. I haven't shared it.
Mind. I don't know.
I haven't shared it with anybody in the industry. I'd be happy to share it with you. And if you can use it and do something with it, or it can maybe turn your eyes onto other islands in the Mediterranean where, don't forget, you got the hypogeum in Malta and a bunch of other stuff that's gone on there.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Yeah. Actually, Malta's had it has had a history with UFOs. Wasn't there the flap where people were getting like scorched by like fire and stuff like that?
I don't remember that one, but maybe
that was a part of Italy. Maybe it wasn't.
That was Italy.
Yeah.
That was Italy. Malta is an island owned by Italy, though, right? Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's its own separate country, but it's in the Mediterranean. It's to the west and north of like the boot of Sicily. So
I have a video I wish I could have shown you. One of my followers took it. He lives on like the 25th floor of his building, and he was filming the birds above him in slow motion, and I was like blown away, because you could see the birds like flapping real slow, and then all of a sudden this object comes in from the left, like if it wasn't even slowed down at all. It comes in and goes whoop and goes right back out. And those birds barely made one flap, and this thing went in, made a complete U-turn, and went right back out before one flap was down completely.
And trust me, I'm also someone who's very, I watch for insects, I watch for birds. I am so tired about people calling out insects as quote-unquote UAP dragons because you're seeing wings flap of a fly or an insect or something to that extent.
It's called the flutter of a fly's wings, right?
Oh, my God. Yeah. Yeah, so many people...
Is that the explanation for the skyfish?
Yeah, probably.
Or the sky rods?
It could be.
Anything where you're seeing
not
things.
Jose, don't say that about Jose.
Let's look at the Nicky Williams video.
So I've got a video here from Nicky Williams. This is something that Nicky Williams at the time was a trucker. He was heading towards Phoenix on one of the freeways, and he stopped in Sentinel, Arizona, and he recorded an amazing clip. Let me go ahead and play this. This is a clip nonstop, start to end. Let me go ahead and play this one. This is on our channel. It's one of our most popular videos. Let me just play it full screen so you can see the whole thing here. Here we go.
There we go. Trying to get it in focus.
So what he's initially seeing is some things off on the horizon that are really bright on the psionics. Again, none of this stuff is showing up when he's trying to see it. You can see you've got a whole bunch of things that are lit up, and you're getting that false colorization coming from the psionics. But there's, besides these things, there's a bunch of other stuff out there in the distance that, let me just go ahead and play this so you can check it out.
This is the one where like something shoots in and then does like a right angle turn and flies back, right?
No, this is one of the things where you're going to be seeing all these dots flying around, moving back and forth in patterns. You're going to see some stuff going around, or you'll be looking at it, and then he shines a flashlight on it, and it signals him back.
Okay. Yeah, he shines a light, and it kind of does like a right angle as it like it shines something at him and then shoots back at like a right angle. I think I've seen this.
Here, let me get to that good point right there.
So not prepared for this.
Someone else who needed a tripod, Darcy.
Hold on. I'm trying to focus more.
You got this, Nikki. We know it's not a boat.
You can see we've got a craft coming in this way towards here. That's going to be going towards the light. Goes directly into it. Starts coming out the other side.
All right. Whoa! Look at those guys. What in the fuck?
There was something actually moving around the ground, and then they're going to see it pop up. There we go.
Holy shit, dude! Oh my god. Dude, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
That's a good one.
Oh my god. Dude.
And whatever just shone really brightly there, there it is right there. So whatever bursted up and got really bright, when I counted it, there was about 11 objects that were moving back and forth within the theater at this particular point.
Dude. I need to get my other camera.
I thought I remembered an object coming really fast close to him in this. Maybe not.
What was that, Darcy?
I thought I remember seeing, like, in this footage, an object coming really close to him and then shooting away.
No, not in this one, no.
Okay, something else.
All right.
He keeps on trying to signal. He's not going to get any more signals coming out of it, though.
Dude.
But it's just, there's a lot of things going on in this video here. This is where he takes the camera. This is some of the best footage. He sets it down on his dashboard when he's trying to get his other camera. He goes to get his 4K camera out, and it's lost 100% of its charge. So he continues on in setting this particular one down, and we can see now that we're getting the effect of the psionics going through the windshield. There's a lot more things moving around in the sky than we realized before.
Yeah, cool. I mean, the only thing that I could think of with that object that left the lower light and went to the right and then shone a light in his direction.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I was thinking,
Dude,
what if this is
dead.
like a helicopter test area, and it was a helicopter that's flying within a group of a bunch of them, seriously? Taking off and coming down, and one of them at one point caught his light and switched its like beacon light towards him. I don't know.
Yeah. You never know.
Where was this shot?
This was shot at a truck stop in Sentinel, Arizona, and it was facing down to the southwest.
And there weren't 11 helicopters flying in the same area over there at the same time.
Yeah, fair enough. Just throwing that out there, Mike. I need you to correct me.
Oh, no, I got you, Darcy. Listen, it's always healthy to be skeptical, my friend.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting footage. It's like strange how much.
How would you explain those two right in the middle that haven't moved the entire time?
Right now.
I'm not sure what those are because those eventually come flying over where he's at. I've got another.
Move from there.
They move from there.
Yeah.
They're actually coming towards him at this point.
Go to the part where they go over him.
That's on another video clip I'll have to dig up.
Oh, okay.
Because he had to change the battery, his camera.
No, this
But the
camera
spark
was
completely
going
died.
fine. It was his 4K camera that he was trying to get up and going. And he actually called me on the phone right as this stuff was going on. And he called into the show. So it was kind of almost like we were getting the play-by-play from Sentinel, Arizona as he was recording this.
Yeah, and we told him, send us the footage. Let's see it. Let's see it. We want to see the video, Nikki.
Yeah.
And he did. He sent it.
Don't forget that the 3 DHS videos all occurred in Arizona.
What about in Arizona again? I'm sorry?
The 3 DHS videos that...
oh, yeah. Those are from Arizona as well? There you go. I wonder if it could be... We'll have to take a look on the map and where yours were at and see where this was at and see if it lines up at all.
Well, the ones border, where ours was just right by the... Yeah, it was near the border.
Yeah, this is by the border, too. He's shooting down towards Mexico right now.
Yeah, so...
Seems to be a hot spot.
Well, the local, I know the Tahona Odom call them the spirit beings.
I don't think spirit beings are going to signal back and forth from a flashlight.
Well, they call them that because that's what they've, they see them as well, but they view them in a different manner than us. We call them UFOs, they call them spirit beings.
Right. Different terminology.
Yeah.
All right. Here, what I can do is spin this around, and I can bring it up and show you guys. This is
interesting. I actually visited the site recently. I can't say exactly what I was doing, but I actually went to. We went to the exact location where the rubber duck was filmed.
Oh, nice. So this is where it's at. It's in Sentinel, Arizona, at the Sentinel, Arizona West truck spot. He was literally parked in this spot right here. They were able to go ahead based on his... You can't see that there. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can bring that up a little bit higher. There you go. He was literally parked in this spot right here. We're able to determine it. And he was looking out west at this point. And if I were to go ahead and then pull all the way up and down... he's actually right here along the Sentinel, Arizona truck stop, but he's actually looking southeast.
Towards Baja, California?
Towards Baja, California.
Cool.
Towards the Sea of Cortez.
Maybe that was over... I wonder if it was far enough away that it was actually, you were seeing objects over the Sea of Cortez.
The water, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Mexico is like right out here. It's not that far away. Here's Nogales. Here's the Mexican border right here, I believe.
It could have been over the water.
Yeah.
It looks like it from the video, it was over the water. That seems to be about the right distance.
Yeah. Now, since we're talking about USOs, one of the things I want to bring up is they've talked about one of the hot spots they have is the Isla Guadalupe, right? This is where supposedly...
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, hasn't that been reported pretty heavily on Lou Elizondo's History Channel show?
Right. Now, if you go to the southeast of there, you get to this spot where you start looking at these structures that are on the ocean floor. Where is it at? Where's my map at? Here we go. By... what do you call it? Isla de Cedros. These structures are over a mile wide. And we're getting stuff that are going in straight lines. You're getting it where you're getting one where you've got 90-degree turns of one object going across another object. And honestly, I have scoured the ocean floors on Google Maps everywhere, and there is nothing like this anywhere else in the world. Not only do we have these giant structures, majority of what's going on the sea floor here has all been redacted, so you can't see what's going on.
Yeah, I can tell. Like, it looks like...
I was just about to say, I'm like, where's the rest?
it's like you have these tubes, and then all of a sudden, like, artificial, like, scrubbing all around that.
Bingo.
That's insane.
And these are well over a mile wide, whatever these tubes are. And when you see something like this, where you've got one and the other intersecting, you've got 90-degree angles, generally you don't see stuff like that in nature. And for me, it was when initially I heard about the Tic Tac incident back in 2000, was it 2004? When did the Tic Tac incident happen again?
2004.
2004.
Yeah.
I heard about it in December 2004, about 15 feet where I'm sitting right now, from one of the guys who was on one of the E2 Hawkeyes. And they said where it was going towards. I always went to look for Isla Guadalupe, but I wanted to expand my search to figure out what's going on in the areas around it. Because if you're hiding on the bottom of the ocean floor, you're not going to go right down right where your bases are. You're going to go down near it and then scuttle around where no one's going to be able to pick you up.
I was talking to Sean Cahill recently, and he was talking about the Tic Tac incident and how they were recording and tracking these objects for days. You know, Kevin Day.
Yeah.
That they were part of a flotilla of around 100 of these objects. They would come down in sets.
Yep.
And then go off the coast of the island of Guadalupe into the ocean. So they would be in the sky, they would come down in groups, like rows of them, and then go into the ocean near Guadalupe.
Weren't they like 60 to 80,000 feet up, and they would drop in a fraction of a second, going crazy hundreds of thousands of miles per hour, dropping down to the ocean level?
Yeah. Like, what is that? I mean, people think that the Tic Tac, or when people talk about the gimbal footage, they say, "Hey, check out the ASA. There's a whole fleet of them," right? So we know that there's some other data that we're not seeing there in this isolated footage that the pilots or the guys that are tracking these objects are seeing, that there's a whole fleet, there's tons of them. Whereas Tic Tac, people don't think that there's like a fleet, where there was a flotilla of them. There was like 100 over a course of days. So, I mean, that's mind-boggling. Is it all Mars? I don't think so.
I've heard before these things coming in at really high speed out of in space. They arrive at our upper atmosphere. They will drop down from our upper atmosphere, go down to below the ocean, and when they exit, they come straight back up, and they leave at the exact same coordinates that they entered our upper atmosphere, which is beyond anything even Elon Musk could even pull off these days. And this was stuff that was being, if you want to call it, observed by Space Force back in the day.
I had an incident out here on Long Island once. Well, not an incident, but a sighting. My friends always make fun of me with this subject. And one night we're out at a garage, and it was very, very dark in this area. And whenever I see darkness, I take the opportunity to look up at the sky, right? So I'm looking up. They're all making fun of me. One of my friends that was pushing the whole of making fun of me. He's looking up with me, and he's talking all his crap. And as soon as he does that, I would have to say from space, two very dim red lights right next to each other like that, side by side, come down from space. I have to say it was space because they came down very, very high, straight down like that, and landed pretty close to where we are, but we couldn't see exactly where. And I looked at him and I was like, I know you saw that. I was like, stop talking shit. And he looks at me and he goes, all right, I'm done. And he ends up walking away. But that was, I don't really tell people much about that one, but I thought that was very interesting because it was too clear, I mean, obvious red lights that just dropped down straight from the sky. But they were dim. They weren't bright like, a light. It was just two dim red lights that just side by side came straight down.
And you didn't go for a walk to figure out what it was.
Are you kidding me? I wanted to freaking hop that fence and run through the bushes to find out what the hell that was.
Man, you should have. By yourself even. What the hell?
I know. I know.
Yeah. Great conversation today, guys. Absolutely. So,
it was fun.
Oh, gosh. It's been really fun so far. I guess as we can kind of wrap this up, I know you guys have been here for over an hour. I don't want to take too much of your Friday evenings.
I'm fine. I'm drinking.
Yeah.
You don't have Friday evenings. Come on, man. Every day is business day. I'm just posting this out to Twitter and Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Twitter Spaces. Oh, my God.
I don't get involved anymore.
What a garbage fire, eh?
Oh, dumpster fire. Hey, but dumpster fire news is gone, so we don't have to worry about them, Mike.
That's right. No, you're right, Thomas. It's it's a drama like it's a Jerry Springer episode every night on social media, Darcy.
Yeah.
Now, you know that. You've been on there. And it's getting worse, not better.
I'm curious. Well, that's why Darcy today was telling me, he was like, oh, well, you go on, because I was asking him what the reviews were about the video, and he's like, oh, go on Twitter. I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm like, I'm good. I just, you know what it is? It's just I don't want to be anywhere near that anymore after the experience I went through. And
right.
I just prefer it that way because all the social media did for me was show me exactly the exact issue with humanity, because I still don't understand how there's no scientific study on this. How, to me, social media is showing you the real side of humanity, because you're removing that physical interaction from people, and they're being who they really are. You understand? So it should be of a great concern that the human populace is really this way, because the toxicity in social media is like unreal.
Yeah.
No, it's beyond unreal. I agree. But I have to, like Darcy said, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. There is a lot of toxicity on it, and there are a lot of people who are desperate for attention and will do just about anything to create drama just to get their 15 minutes of fame. But that being said, I can tell you that there are still good people who are on the platform. You, Darcy, me, Thomas, Lou. There's a whole bunch of credible scientists like Gary Nolan.
A lot of great
who are
people
on
out there.
Yeah,
No,
there's a lot.
Only us. We're the
You're
only
right.
credible people, all right?
So but I look at it like this, right? This is like an analogy I've always thought of or used in my brain to when I think of it in that manner that you just mentioned. They take a container of water, right? And you have a Kool-Aid powder next to it. That water is everyone else. And then you take a small little teaspoon and add that in there. It's not going to make it taste any better. You know what I'm saying? So basically what I'm trying to say is that we're that little teaspoon of Kool-Aid being put into this massive jug of water. And no matter what you do, it's just not going to taste. You're not going to taste the Kool-Aid, because there's just so much of that it overpowers us.
It's diluted by all the toxicity.
Exactly.
You're saying, right, Andy?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The toxicity dilutes the attempts that people like us try to make, because there's just so much of that. And that's why I say that, their voices, even though it's negative, it's louder. And when you have that being louder, it's hard to hear us.
It drowns out the logic. It makes like the town crier and the madman in the group gets more attention than the person that's actually pointing out some logical information. So yeah, it's aggravating. I was on Twitter Spaces for like maybe like just under a year. I kind of started checking them out in a big way last year and taking part and stuff like that. And yeah, I just found it was super toxic and people looked for a way to cause drama about anything. Like I would be entering spaces and people would be making up drama about me.
I see that on a daily basis these days. Something, they'll take a sentence that you said and they'll twist it around into where it's a complete fabrication. You know, go ahead, Andy.
No, I'm saying, go ahead, finish up.
They'll go ahead and they'll just take something and turn it into a fabrication to where some of the people that we know that used to be friends, it's just like their just mental capacity is just spiraling out of control. So I wish sometimes they turn to their wife or to their son, LM, to go ahead and get some help because you need it.
But
we care about you. We're worried about you.
That's exactly why I tell Darcy this. I've told him a million times. And I've mentioned it many times. I come from the experiencing side of this, so it gives me a different perspective. And based off of my experiences throughout my life, seeing what I saw, experiencing what I've seen, knowing that it's real and seeing people's reactions to then going into Instagram and doing all of this and seeing what happened when I released the video, and being so disappointed because I'm feeling like I just landed this gold mine of evidence that was handed to me in a silver platter. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I take all the right, I do all the right things to get it out there. Okay. I reach out to the SCU because of what I've seen. I'm like, let me do the right thing to then only see what happened after that. I finally have come to the conclusion that this phenomena is not something that is going to be for the planet. I feel, me personally, like I have a really deep conviction about this, is that whatever is happening, it's looking, I guess you could say, or searching for people like us.
Yeah.
It doesn't give a shit about the rest of it. You understand what I'm saying? Because no matter what you do, you're never going to be able to take humanity and remove that part.
Toxicity.
Yes, you're just not going to do it because it's been integrated into us for so long.
Yeah.
That I feel like what they're looking for are those specific individuals that they can that this can be this can reach and be used and presented in a positive way, where eventually that small, action of teaching your kids or making them a little more open to this, and will eventually become and turn into something greater. That little ripple will eventually turn into a wave.
I've got a story about Andy's interaction with UFO Twitter, which made me laugh when I was thinking about it, because it's a very Andy response. But basically, when he first came out and showed those DHS UAP videos, and people were both critical and trolled him and harassed him, sent him like the nastiest messages, called him a grifter, all this stuff on Twitter. One of my friends who actually helped me with like some animation on this recent documentary, he was like, yo, man, like, why are you working with that guy? He's like such an ass or whatever. And I'm like, he's my boy. He's my friend. Like he's got a logical mind. He knows what he's talking about. And like, he means well. And they're like, you know how he signed off from Twitter when he was fighting with people on Twitter? I was like, how did he sign off? He said, y'all can eat a dick.
He wasn't wrong.
I remember that.
Andy's a good guy.
And then
I think it was an appropriate response.
y'all can eat a dick, and then deleted his account. And I was laughing. I was like, yeah, I'm not super professional either. And I've been trolled and attacked and had like massive amounts of people come after me in the UFO community and YouTube, as many people may know. And it's just like, it's like Richard Dolan says, when you stand up, the taller and stronger you stand up, the greater somebody else out there wants to take you down, and they will hit you like a hammer. They will try and nail you down so that you can't stand up and be strong anymore. And it's just the way it is, the way the world is, not just in this community, but in politics, in sports, in, families, wherever that there can be competition, jealousy, envy, toxicity. People do this, and the UFO Twitter spaces are an exceptional place for that. Like, the battles that happen, that are waged there, are incredible. I mean, I'm humbled by the trolls and stuff that came after me historically. But the way that they come after people on Twitter is just like insane.
Yeah.
It's beyond insane. You're absolutely right.
I look at it like this. I'm sorry to cut you off, Mike, but I've had so many people when I started my account and got those videos, they used to always come at me and tell me, why do you give these guys attention? And I get that. I got that all the time. Oh, ignore them, ignore them, ignore them. I don't, my perspective is completely different. Fuck ignoring them, excuse my language. Because what happens when you ignore them is that you don't point out the problem, and these individuals continue to do it because they're not being challenged. So I don't view it that way. That's why I behave the way I do, because no one is fighting back in that manner. And I chose to, because I don't want to be that guy that just goes like this and turns the other cheek and keeps allowing these guys to keep doing what they're doing. So
no, when they go to slap you,
when
they go to slap you again, instead of just allowing them to turn your cheek, you cut off their frickin' arm with a sword.
So one of my friends told me, he goes, a wolf doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep. I said, you're right, but wait, but I go like this. I'm like, you're right, but don't wolves eat sheep? So
yeah. Okay, the alpha wolf is not concerned about any of the lesser wolves as part of his pack going ahead and saying anything against them, because he will put them down. And I am
he'll put them down.
And I am so happy that you survived the toxicity you were going through when that duck video came out, because when it first did, I grabbed it, I covered it. I have the original version you put out, the high resolution version. I have it here. Phenomenal video showing the stuff that went on. A lot of people try to debunk it and put it down, but there's just stuff on there. Didn't even SCU take the video and analyze it and come back and say that's a UAP?
That was the first. Actually, I reached out to them before I even released that video.
Yeah.
Because I understood. Okay, like for example, Tic Tac. Yeah, it's amazing. We hear that there's more, but there's not more to show the public.
Yeah.
So when I got that, 60 minutes, 40 minutes of the object, I automatically understood and knew I can't just put this out there. I have to find some way of making sure that this gets done correctly. That's when actually it was a friend of mine who told me about the SCU, and then that's how it happened.
Right.
And before it ever got even released, they had it for months doing that analysis before I got the okay from them to release it. And then I did. And the only reason was because I was getting so much shit.
I have to think and point back out to it again. Did Sean Kirkpatrick ever try to debunk that video? I don't think he did he?
No, he wouldn't touch it.
No. That's why I did it the way I did it. So there would be no debunking.
Yeah. But there's always going to be debunkers. There's always going to be stuff out there. Back to some of the stuff Darcy was saying earlier, the way the community is. I don't think if we had a video come out of showing of actually aliens or a crash craft that would come out from the DOD or anything, a lot of people are going to all say it's all bullshit, it's all faked, it's all AI, it's not real put together. What do we have to do? Roll out the dead bodies on a stage for people to come and see chunks of the crash craft or something?
Oh, they've done that with the Nazca mummies, and look at how that turned out.
So,
Mike, do you think the Nazca mummies are real?
No, not at all.
Don't get them started.
I think there might be something there.
Like,
I'll leave myself open to the opportunity to bring out the scientific proof, do the tests, get the stuff there, and if they can show it's something. Remember when a platypus first came around? They thought it was faked. They thought there's no way it can be an animal that looks like a vole that has that's puts off poison and it's got a duck bill and it just doesn't look right. Maybe
I always argued that because I personally always looked up to Jaime. He was somebody I enjoyed watching because I know that his passion is really there.
Yeah.
But I know that throughout the years,
he brings out a lot of bullshit.
Yeah,
but still, even
I worked with Jaime.
I was on the.
Even if 99 out of 100 things he came out with weren't exactly what he claimed them to be, that doesn't mean number 100 doesn't have some weight behind it. Because he's going to keep on trying.
He's covered some credible events in history, for sure, right? I don't disparage him for his whole career, but I think the mummies thing is not a good. That's just my perspective is that they're fake or not like aliens. They're not aliens, but they're like either constructed bone, dolls in a way, bone mummies.
Yeah.
Or human mummies mixed with other human mummies.
Maybe, but if you look at the face and the shape of the face, I saw a video of this and it showed, not a video, an image of this, I could find it and bring it up. It shows one of the mummy faces next to one of the ET faces from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and it's a spitting exact mirror of it that's amazing. So many years before that, Steven Spielberg exactly predicted that head.
The Third Kind was like a plasticine stop motion fake ass alien, and you're comparing one fake alien to another fake alien. Great fallacy there.
Exactly.
But what's funny though is that before all of that came out, I actually followed a page. I found a page on Instagram that was, I knew right away what it was, but to the untrained individual, they're thinking that these are alien artifacts. But I called this page out and they blocked me instantly. But they had an entire lineup of, I'm telling you, there was so many alien artifacts. I was going to say there's nothing really crazy about this then, because there's so much evidence based off of your page that, we should find out exactly who they are from all of these artifacts that you're apparently digging up from the ground.
Yeah.
And I started digging into it, and I realized there is a massive, massive fake business
in Central and South America. In the Central and South Americas, yes, there's a huge business.
Yeah, and because Hispanics specifically are very into this kind of thing, into the paranormal, into all that stuff,
Chupacabra.
They get fooled very easily, So they look at it like, oh my God, I got something. Because it's got this, alien looking thing on it. It's got to be authentic.
So my friend, Gary King, he's like a crop circle researcher out of the UK. And he told me this story because Gary was invited to work out of Jaime Maussan's studio, Tercer Milenio, down in Santa Fe, Mexico. That's where I visited to shoot this set of documentaries with him in the past.
Right.
And Gary, we worked together in passing on a thing that was like crop circle related that I had Jaime in the past. And Gary and I did like kind of PR for that. We were like doing interviews and stuff. And Gary at that point had like jettisoned himself out of Mexico. He left because he wasn't getting paid and he was sick and tired of the crap that he was seeing happening in the studio. One of these stories he told me, he distinctly remembers going into the studio in the morning and Jaime was like, Gary, come over here. I want to show you something. And Gary is like, well, what is it, mate? Let's see it. And he's British. And some guy in the studio on one of their monitors, their computers, plays this video. And it's like a passenger plane taking off from the airport and like a red balloon or something going by the wing. And the video sees the red balloon go by the wing really quick and go off into the sky. And Gary's like, that's a balloon, Jaime. And Jaime is like, no, it's not. You say, OVNI, this is real. This is a real alien. And Gary's like, no, mate, it's a balloon. Trust me, that looks like a balloon. If you slow it down enough, it probably looks like a normal balloon. You can't play that. Sure enough, it was played on Tercer Millennial later that day. And like that was near the end. That was near the end of his stay there. But I would hear about stuff like that all the time. And the Nazca mummies were another thing. When I was down there shooting with him in, I think it was like 2019, the Gaia show on the Nazca mummies was well underway.
Gaia, Rick's on Gaia all the time. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Jaime was promoting that, and I wanted to know about it. So we were asking people in the studio about it, and this guy had said, who was working on that production, who was a geneticist based out of Mexico City. He said that the first genetic tests that were done of Maria, which was the very bigger humanoid structure that has like
the eggs inside of it, etc.
Yeah, and it has like the Paracas skull put on top of another body, and they've cut the hands and cut the feet, make it like 3 fingers on each. 3 toes, 3 fingers. That guy was like, I couldn't speak Spanish, but my wife was like, are they real? Like, are they aliens? What's going on? The guy's like, well, we got our first genetic sequencing tests back from a company in Vancouver, Canada, just so happens, called Genesis. You can look up this company. It's a genetics company.
Do they have a Y in there? Are they from the Terminator movie Genesis?
Maybe. I haven't really, I don't know. I haven't really looked into it that much, but I did at the time. And Genesis gave the results that it was completely human, the cadaver, like the genetics were human. So that's when I was like, okay, well, this must be an altered human body because it's giving just human genetics. And if you still look at all the stuff that's going on with the Nazca mummies today, there's no chain of custody for the bodies. That means you don't know where the bodies really came from. There's no, like in the scientific world and anthropology and geology and stuff, if they find something in the earth or in a cave or wherever, they start a chain of custody history with that object or that thing. And there's no chain of custody for any of these bodies. And some genetic tests have been done where they're just saying it's a human like genome, and others are coming from elsewhere, but it's not been fully peer reviewed. Why? Because it might be hoax.
Well, that's why, Darcy, because if there's no conclusive, definitive chain of custody, any scientist worth his salt out there isn't going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. because the results are going to be flawed. They need a direct line of custody for any of these objects, which doesn't exist. So you're right about everything you're saying. I agree with your points wholeheartedly. Thomas and I have had a lot of conversations privately about this. He knows exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to say
points.
I have a crotch hair's bit of potential truth that could be there. A curly that
I will say this. I don't want to crap on him too much, because do you remember the videos that used to come out from Mexico, the sky serpents?
Yeah, I mean the balloons, yeah.
Well,
yeah, it looked like a chain of party balloons coming out of a pack, right?
But I give him credit because he actually found that and posted. So my thing with Jaime is that I feel like when it comes to certain things, he jumps on it so much and wants to believe it to be real so bad that he refuses to want to
accept the truth.
Wait, no, I think Andy, I think you hit the nail on the head here. He wants to believe versus show me the facts and I'll judge for myself. He has this bias. I believe in Santa Claus. I believe in the Easter Bunny. I believe in parts of religion. That's all his believability. What Stan Friedman always said was, show me the facts, and I'll accept the truth, kind of to a degree. But I think that's what's missing, right, Andy?
Yeah, I feel like that's what it is. That's why I don't like to talk too badly about him, because I kind of understand that part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you
like I said, it's like asking to go on a date. He's tried 99 times and he's gotten turned down, but one of the times, maybe he got a date. But if you don't keep on asking, you'll never know.
Yeah, but it's just a shame that he doesn't stick through to, 100% with certain things, like, for example, like these mummies and whatnot. He just wants it to be real.
Hey, he reached out to members of Congress. He's got support from Anna Paulina Luna and Tim Burchett.
God.
But will they get, the thing is, like, will Tim Burchett or any scientists that are unbiased actually get these cadavers and get to do a full round of testing on these things, right?
Will the Department of Antiquities from Peru allow these things to come to the U.S. for testing is what it really comes down to. Well, I guess it comes down to how much money do we send to Peru and how much money can we hang over them and say, if you don't let us do this, we're not going to give you your support. Andy?
As far as I know, some of them have been stolen from Peru successfully.
Yeah, that's what
that's part of the reason why Peru has been so vigilant with stopping this, because they've been
even hiding the Paracas skulls and everything lately, trying to cover up evidence of that there's something different down there.
Yeah, the Paracas skulls are anomalous for sure. I think there's it could be binding or it could be. Well, actually, I think Brian Forrester proved that there's no signs of cranial binding in those skulls. But
yeah,
what his summation was that they actually came from the Baltic Sea region, the genes and even the hair that you find on the Paracas skulls in the museums down in Peru, where they have that collection of the Paracas people, it's red, and red hair is not a feature of Latin Americans. So,
but it's not just the Baltic region; it's specifically from Crimea. A highly contested piece of real estate that everybody wants because there's aliens there.
It's like an Eastern European genetics for the Paracas skulls. So they think, they got on boats and came a long, long, long time ago and maybe arrived in Peru and were kind of so marooned and were so different from the natives of that area that they eventually died off, and the natives never would procreate with them or associate with them because they look like friggin' red-haired aliens or something, right? But that's just a really dumbed down explanation of that. But then you've got these practice skulls showing up on the Nazca mummies. The practice skulls are not even supposed to be there. So that's a big red flag right there. You know that there's been some alterations that's been done. You know that somebody that's been grave robbing has picked up on these practice skulls being very anomalous and think, hey, let's put these on top of these Nazca bodies. It's really going to sell this alien idea, right?
Now, I'm curious. I wanted to ask you guys, so whoever wants to answer.
Oh, absolutely, Andy.
What, like, okay, how can I ask this?
Just whatever's on your mind, just say it.
What would you, how would you feel, or what would you think of the fact that we may actually just be on this planet as experiments? Like, what if we found, what if we just found that out? What if we found out that we were literally just some other higher form of intelligence experiment to ultimately come to a conclusion, or I guess you could say, end result on their part? Like, how does that affect your guys' lives? How does that affect your view of reality?
Well, I could tell you people like Lou Elizondo, John Ramirez, they have spoken publicly about that specific possibility. Personally, how do I feel about it? Wouldn't surprise me. We've been searching for an answer as far as who we are and where we come from since before the time of religion. So if that turned out to be the case, I wouldn't be overly shocked, and I would accept that now we have an answer that we didn't have before. It wouldn't change my day-to-day life. It wouldn't change the bills that we all have to pay every day. That wouldn't change anything. So for me, it would just be new data and more information to explain things that before were not explainable. So I would be, how could I put this? Not overly excited, but not disappointed. I would just take it as new information.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself. Thomas, you have an opinion?
No, I think that's a good way to look at it, Mike. But what I've actually had here queued up for a while is a classic UFO video showing one of the first Concorde test flights that were going on, and a UFO coming and checking it out. And I wanted to get Darcy's. Darcy, you've seen this video before, possibly?
That's, if he hasn't, I'd be surprised.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
I've seen that before.
Let me get rid of the audio on this one.
Comes back up.
Goes along it, and then poof, it's gone.
But Thomas, isn't that just a drop of water?
Oh, is it a drop of water? I don't think so. And then it goes back up again.
Supposedly, it was debunked as a glass of water on the lens of the camera.
What do you think?
So this footage was filmed. This is the maiden flight of the Concorde when they first built this,
right?
New commercial aircraft for flying across the sea.
Atlantic, yeah.
They were pretty bad. They crashed multiple times, and then they just decommissioned them because they were too expensive to operate and they were crashing so much. But on this maiden flight, this is a Kodak film being recorded by another aircraft pacing it for promotional material of its maiden flight. And that orb flies into the shot. I mean, you look at it, comes straight in. Life magazine back in the 70s even reported on this.
I mean, you look at that, that's a perfect pop up and pop down as it's going and chasing along with the craft, which basically means it's matching its speed for what's going on, comes down, gets into it, gets along, and we're going to go ahead. Let's see if I can get my mouse to work here.
It actually paces.
It actually goes and looks in the frickin' window to see what they're doing inside of the craft. Right there.
Yeah.
It's doing a looky-loo.
Not a boat. Not a boat.
It's not a drop of water.
Oh, it's not a drop of water. Let's be realistic about this thing. But that's what, we all look at a lot of videos and we see a lot of fake stuff all the time. That's why I want to bring this old classic one up here to see. What do you think from your perspective? Darcy, would you say this is something more than a drop of water going on here? There's something
100%.
more going on?
Yeah. Definitely. I think that's a classic UFO.
Yeah.
Classic.
You don't think somebody flushed the toilet on the Concorde, Darcy?
Never know, man. Those Concorde toilets could create visual anomalies in the sky.
Oh, I know.
Have you ever seen one up close?
No, I haven't. They're pretty big, though, eh?
Oh, my God. Huge. I was at Kennedy Airport when they were there, and I saw this thing in real life. It's huge.
There's one of those at the Seattle we have at Boeing Field here in Washington State. We actually have off to the side of it, we have an aeronautics museum, and this is one of the exhibits at the aeronautics museum is one of the remaining Concords.
Aren't they restarting that again or something like that?
They've got new planes they're building that are different from the ones that they had. I guess the one that crashed the last time was due to, what was it, stuff that was on the runway that screwed with the tires that shot stuff in. Go ahead, Andy.
No, Hollywood has had his hand up. I'm just pointing out.
Hollywood, go ahead. Harold?
I'd heard somebody try to debunk this video and stuff, saying there was some kind of spurious reflection on the inside of the airplane while they were filming it.
God.
I mean, the camera was moving up and down and stuff. It was reflecting that light from behind it. But
do we have a Mick West recreation of this yet?
I don't know. But
Isn't Mick West burned out already? Yeah, I don't think he's
my
relevant
God.
anymore.
He'll use his favorite theory. It was a balloon that flew by. Him and Kirkpatrick. It's a balloon.
Oh, my God. The other thing I have to bring up, the other thing that went out there that Kirkpatrick went after was the sightings of the UFOs over Ukraine. And he actually enlisted Avi Loeb. The next day he drove for 3.5 hours to unofficially meet Avi Loeb on his front porch to go ahead and try and debunk the stuff that was going on in Ukraine. And the thing that's interesting is the videos of the craft that I have over Malta exactly match the description of what they call the phantoms over Ukraine.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Avi Loeb, and also Dr. Gary Dolan. I respect what they do. I was actually in the Utah conference. I was with who was it? Jamie Maussan. I was with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And he was on there. He was actually through video. This is when I got the footage for the Apache, the Army National Guard footage that showed the 3 objects come into view, and the pilot noticed it, called it out, and then you could see them do some weird little dance. The only thing, the problem with Avi and, for example, Gary Nolan, is they both mentioned something during some podcast that I had watched. I believe it was with Project. One of them was with Project Unity. The other one, I'm not sure which one. But Avi Loeb mentioned how...
Avi Loeb? Yeah.
Yeah. How the old footage or historical records didn't matter anymore. I disagree with that. And then Gary Nolan mentioned how the only thing that he cared about and was important to him was the way the technology worked. And I feel like that is a good, how you could say, example of how you're not supposed to go about this subject. You can't just cherry pick as to what it is that you want to study with this subject. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you're looking to, for example, what Gary Nolan mentioned in regards to only being interested in the technology, how can you be interested in just that without being interested in the mind that created that? You understand what I'm saying? That doesn't make any sense.
I got you, because that's the biggest problem we have with disclosure right now. Everything in disclosure in the United States is focused on the craft, the dynamics of the craft, the performance parts of the craft. And all I can say is take the craft, shove it up the ass of the DOD. Let's start talking about who's in the craft, why are they here, what are they doing here? Most importantly, what are they doing here? Right?
Imagine you, or imagine us going to a planet, right, that has a civilization like ours that is not as technologically advanced. And the only thing that we're thinking about, or they're thinking about, is just how we operate our technology. I would be offended in a sense, because it's like, wouldn't you want to understand the people or the being that created the technology? That to me would be more important.
Yeah,
because
that's
the technology, yeah, it's amazing, but who came up with that? I want to know about the guy that invented that, came up with it or thought about it.
Want like
That's the problem.
Psychological perspective of the non-human intelligence, or the anthropological answer to that, right? And that's why I like Michael P. Masters' work, because he's trying to come at this like, well, you know, maybe these things are hominids like us, because a gray is an upright, you know, hominid-looking
bipedal,
bipedal, us. Like, why isn't it on all fours, or like a, you know, a six-legged creature or something? You know, it doesn't have to look somewhat like us, but a lot of them do, right? So I like that. I don't think he's really, maybe he is interested in the craft, but that is one person that's kind of like coming to the subject from an anthropological perspective, which is cool. I don't disagree with Gary Nolan for wanting to know how the technology works. I'm actually down with that too. I'm more of like the nuts and bolts.
But I don't mean to cut you off, but I get that, and I understand that the technology is amazing. The things that they could do are absolutely incredible. But you cannot just you cannot just skip that part. How can you understand the technology without understanding the mind that came up with the technology?
It's like I say it a lot of times, Andy. It's like we focus on, we've got a white van that is going ahead and driving around in neighborhoods around our city. They've got a 450 horsepower engine. They've got snow tires on that. You know, we're getting into the talking about the vehicle itself, not saying that there's individuals within it who look like X who are trying to abduct kids, get them off the street. You need to take a look at it and but the way our government has it pinned right now, anything you talk about the energy system, anything you talk about the craft, that dynamics, the morphology, that all gets pushed off into top secret land, because could be used for military applications. If we push that aside and bring it back to the conversation specifically about what are they doing here, that leaves all of that DOE stuff out of it and allows the conversation to move forward.
Now think about, so this is the way my mind works, and it's more based off of my experiences, because I don't need anybody to tell me that this is real. I know it's real. So I'm putting myself in their shoes. Imagine you visiting this, a race or a species in a planet, and that's all they're interested in. Like, think about that. That to me tells me that, this is a species I need to be worried about, because they're not caring about what what my species had to do to come up with this. They're only worried about just that. That's a red flag in my opinion, because that to me just shows that they're only focused on one thing, instead of being more open-minded and understanding where it came from. That's just the way I view it.
I agree with you. And that's a part of where disclosure needs to get to. But we need to be able to get away from just the nuts and bolts aspect of it, get into more of the woo and more of the non-human intelligence that's clearly in control of these craft. And I don't care about their energy systems. I don't care about how their craft can maintain this kind of speeds. I don't care that they can go from 80,000 feet down to 50 feet in a fraction of a second, go under the water. That's all great. The real part of the question is, what are they going after in our human population? What are they doing to us besides going ahead and focusing on our military installations? You know what I mean, Andy?
It's a good point, but I just want to let everybody know Darcy has to end the conversation, the interview.
Sure.
And we're gone past our normal time anyway.
I know. The conversation has been killer here so far.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good, for sure.
This has been fun. Yeah,
Ever since we started talking about more of the global sense of the phenomenon, it's taken off, and I appreciate you guys coming out here tonight. Holy cow! And thank you for spending the additional time. We've been going for over 2 hours. Great conversation, guys. This is phenomenal. Best interview ever.
Pleasure. Best conversation so far talking about this doc. So thank you for having us. Andy could stay on a little longer. I got to roll. I got to walk my dog and stuff. But
I understand that one.
Everybody have an amazing night and take care of yourselves. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance, go on Apple TV, check out Andy and I's latest documentary.
Yeah. The link's in the description for the video. Check it out. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put the link up on the show. And Darcy, listen, you and Andy are good friends of ours, and we really had a lot of fun with you on the episode tonight. And you guys are welcome to come back anytime you want after you're done with the press tour on the interviews and just hang out. We really love and enjoy the conversation, and so does the audience.
You're experts in this area, and we recognize that. And the conversation, just talking about so many different wide parts of this of the phenomenon, it's been very enjoyable for us and the audience. Thank you for coming here today.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, you guys are good too. We all have good perspectives to share, I think.
Yeah.
So, all right. Have a good night.
Good night, Darcy.
Adios.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good seeing you again, my friend. We'll talk again soon.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Andy, I appreciate you being here today as well.
I have my fuel, so I can stay another 10 to 20 minutes.
All right. Hey, right here, my friend. What are you drinking? Tequila?
Actually, no. I'm not a hard drinker. This is actually sake.
Oh, so that's good enough. That works.
Yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, well, it's working.
That's all that matters.
You gotta have fun. Hey, it's Friday night. You gotta have fun with somebody.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm drinking, because it's Friday.
Yeah.
So, Thomas, what was your point before, just to be clear for our audience? It isn't the van itself. It's the Quaker-Oaks-looking driver. And the question is, are our children safe in the neighborhood? Something like that as an analogy, you mean?
Yeah, kind of. Now that you're bringing up the Quaker Oats, I can bring up the Quaker Oats picture if I need to, my friend. I don't think I want to.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's, it's serious about not being serious, right?
Yeah, it's about protecting your children, my friends. No matter where it bleeds or where it goes to, because this is a friend of Tupacabras who's been out there going ahead and throwing some shit our way, my friend. Where am I at? Oh, where is it at? Let's get to Thomas. Video full. Oh, there we go. You mean that one?
That's the one.
Oh, God. He reminds me of the guy from, oh, God, what was that? Poltergeist 2.
Yes. That creepy bastard.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I created that 101.
Ask, are your children safe tonight?
Are your children safe tonight? I hope so. We just have to be careful with the phenomena. Harold, do you have your hand up, my friend?
As long as it's just Andy here now, what are some of your future plans? Do you have anything in the New York area?
I think there's a TV show in the mix, possibly for Puerto Rico. Andy.
Well, it's in the works. I know that Darcy is pushing to get me to have me as the host of the show, because I kind of was the one that motivated him to do this for Puerto Rico. But I can't guarantee that I'm going to be chosen to do that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I have never, ever planned anything regarding this subject in my entire life. Whatever has happened in my life has literally just fallen on my lap.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I always thought about, was like, I was just talking to somebody today about this, and I said to myself, like, what are the odds that not only have I grown up with this, because I don't have any mental issues. I don't have any psychological issues or anything like that. Yeah, I suffer from depression at one point, but everyone does at one point. This has been something that's followed me since I was a child. Like, and I'm not, joking. It's literally been something that has been a part of my life since I was little. And
so people can follow you at your address there on X on screen who wanted to follow you?
Well, I honestly, my biggest platform that I use the most is Instagram. I don't use anything else. I don't have a Facebook.
So if you want to find him on Instagram, he's not going to be on the tumultuous Twitter site.
Spaces. Yeah.
He'll be safe over on Instagram.
Sorry about the eat dick there. I forgot that. My bad.
So I never thought I would even be here, because I've never been about, like being public or anything like that. To me, that doesn't matter. To me, it's always been just about trying to get people to understand that this is real. And I don't know what it is about why I'm doing that. I just feel like it's something inside of me that's pushing, after experiencing what I experienced, is pushing me to just go that route for some reason. And I don't understand why.
It's the reason I'm here as well, my friend. Seriously. We get brought into something at a young age. We get part of it. It's part of our lives. And, it's something that draws us to this, trying to talk about the phenomena and bring out the truth that's been covered up for too many generations to date.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, though, there's something, at least with people like us, I feel like there's something larger that comes with it. It might not be something that we're going to experience in this lifetime, but me personally, based off of things that I've experienced and seen, I feel like this is going to extend past this existence.
Exactly.
And what I mean by that is, once we're done with this body, what happens? From what I've seen and from what I've been in contact with, there's more to it. Absolutely. This it doesn't end just here. So I feel like the more you can accept the unknown, the more prepared you're going to be when your time comes to step into the unknown. And I feel like there are individuals who are too afraid to take that step forward once their time is up. And that's where we get these ghosts and things like that, because those are individuals that really are afraid to take that step forward. But if you're willing and open-minded to these things, then when your time comes where your body is no longer functional and you're now on your next stage of life or existence, taking that step forward into the darkness may be easier because you have this acceptance towards these things.
Yeah.
And that may be what elevates you to the next level. That's the way I look at it.
Great point, my friend. I appreciate you coming out tonight. Great conversation. We were a little bit in overtime here tonight, but you know what? The conversation has been going so great, I didn't want to go ahead and shut it down. If I could hang out for a little bit here, I just want to go ahead and shut the show down at this point. I want to thank everybody for coming out to this episode of Disclosure tonight. More importantly, I want to thank our friends who have given us some phenomenal super chats tonight. Who am I talking about? Let me go ahead and get that going. I want to thank our friends who gave us super chats tonight. Brian Pemble, $5. Charles Kerr, $20. Phase Will, $4.99 once. No, Phase Will for $9.99 again. I think Fraserman's $6.99 Canadian. And Joanne, $4.99 USD. And Wildcat Mahone for a 777 of Lucky's, my friend. Thank you very much for all your support and everything we do here at Disclosure tonight. More importantly, I want to thank our friends who've been in the back for part of the conversation tonight. Who have we talked with tonight? Let's go ahead and thank Hollywood Harold. Thanks for all your questions tonight, Harold.
Yeah, it's an honor, man. I like picking people's brains, man, when they've got a lot of information and stuff. Good show. Thank you.
That's what it's about, my friend. Also, I thank Laura Campbell. Thanks for your questions. I appreciate it, my dear lady.
I appreciate your show. And Andy, great having you. It was really interesting, and I completely understand what you went through.
Absolutely. And I also want to go ahead and thank who else we have in the back. Let's talk tonight. Mike Disclosure. Thanks for the conversation tonight, my friend.
Oh my God, it was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it tonight. It's been a while.
Oh gosh, yes. I also want to thank our guest Andy. Thanks for coming out tonight, Andy. I appreciate you being here.
Anytime. Honestly, you guys, this is the only show that I did. I think the last time I was on for like 4 hours.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Did you have a good time at least?
For about 4 hours.
Did you enjoy the conversation? Did you have a good time?
I'm not gonna lie, it's the only one that I've done that I actually enjoyed it that much.
Excellent.
I stood that long.
Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Welcome to my house.
Hey, I'm happy to be back anytime you want me to.
Absolutely. And as we usually say at the end of every broadcast, a disclosure tonight: eyes open, no fear, be safe, everyone. But yes, cheers, my friend. We'll catch you on the flip side. Hang out, Annie, until I close off the show. Y'all come back now here. Take care, everybody. Love you. Bye-bye.